About to happen. We got a lot of great panelists that's about to come on this stage because Black Men Need Healing. And right now, you hear Beats by Avery happening right now. You got Beats by Avery happening right now, and you hear that music, Beats by Avery. So go ahead and get over here. Y'all about to start this next panel discussion in 2 minutes. So we need y'all to go ahead and get over here. In the meantime, you got Beats by Avery on the mic. So yeah, all the panelists can definitely grab a seat wherever you feel comfortable at. Wherever you comfortable, you can grab your seat. We start this next panel in now 1 minute. Beats by Avery. I should be the voice on the tagline there. Yeah. Beats by Avery.
Make sure you get your drop.
Exactly.
Say it, man.
Beats by Avery. He making beats on the spot, y'all.
I'm gonna keep some backstage. Back on my desk. So when they're looking for a podcast, I just get
Get off the couch.
What's happening, TT?
All right. It's about to go down. Beats by Avery. Alright, about to get this panel started, y'all. Go ahead and get you a seat. We encourage you to get on your Instagram Live, your Facebook Live, and stream this next conversation, Black Men Need Healing. I promise you, this panel is about to be a jewelry store, and they're gonna drop a lot of gems. That was a bar right there. That was a bar. Amen. Alright. I'm gonna say it one more time for folks who didn't hear me. Give me the same reaction, y'all. It's about to be a jewelry store because they about to drop so many gems. I hope make some noise for that live. I'm a rapper. Hey, get me in the studio. All right. Beats by Avery. All right, y'all. Thank you for being here. Give it up for Beats by Avery over there making live beats. All right. So again, my name is Chris James. Welcome to Get Off the Couch, Mental Health Concert and Conference. We got more music and spoken word for you later on. Right after this next panel, we got some live music by saxophonist Chris King. And then you'll hear some beats by Avery as well a little bit. So we got a little bit going on right after this panel. But Black Men Need Healing is a powerful panel filled with some of the most amazing black men I've ever known in my life. All right? So I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about each one before we get this conversation going on. And I want, did you know, let's do some trivia really quickly. Who knows what men represent as it relates to the suicide rates in America? Who knows that percentage or that rate? Anybody have an idea what that is? If you know, you get a free drink of water on me. All right? Anybody? Nobody? Anybody? Guess. All right? She says that men represent 65% of those who die by suicide. Anybody else want to guess? She said 75. Okay. He say 85 because he's living it and he knows how real these struggles are for men. All right. Well, the latest research I saw said that men account for 78% of the suicides in America. All right, 78%. So that's a conversation, which is a conversation we're about to start having with these great black men right here. So I'm going to introduce every panelist. All right now. All right. The black men are always late. See, I'm playing. That's a joke. That's a joke. Ha. All right. So the first panelist I'm going to introduce is a man by the name of Mario Reyes, all the way from New York. Alright. Mario Reyes, he conducts creative writing workshops that focus on mental health through identity narratives. In guided group conversation, Reyes provides topics and writing prompts that assist self-discovery, intended to leave each participant feeling aligned with their purpose and empowered to continue self-affirming. And I'll say this man is a father. He is a nationally performing spoken word artist, and he's also the founder of a nonprofit organization called Manifest Destiny. And he does programming in the community that helps black fathers to improve in all areas of their lives, right? So make sure y'all connect with this young man. Next, I'm gonna go down here to Montoya Smith. He is the curator of Mental Dialogue Community Club and weekly podcast, where he leads discussions related to issues on race, sex, and culture. And he also serves as a premium referral service for experts, primarily in mental health and finance. The weekly podcast is free to join, along with his monthly Mental Dialogue live experience networking event every third Friday at Urban Grind. So make sure you connect with Mr. Montoya. Snap for him, snap, clap. All right. Next, we got the one and only Dr. Curtis D. Jasper. He is a clinical psychologist who works with 90% black men. He is a speaker, educator, psychologist, and human behavior specialist who uses psycho-spiritual and psycho-emotional and psychosocial approach to counseling and therapy. He teaches individuals, groups, couples, and families a culturally based, non-colonized, therapeutic approach to relationship challenges and family dynamic challenges, black men's issues, mental health challenges, and emotional wellness. Dr. Kurt currently works with clients at his Atlanta-based private practice. He's widely sought after. He's a widely sought. I should have read this before I got here. I can tell you, this is the first time looking at this. It is. All right. So make sure you give with Dr. Curtis Jasper right here. Make some noise for Dr. Kurt. We'll go down to DJ Hershey. Meet the legendary DJ Hershey. Since December 1st, 1992, he has formed Martial Arts Music Productions, producing some of the hottest up-and-coming artists in Chicago. Under this production label, he began to build musical relationships with national recording artists, such as Jive Recording Artists, Public Announcement, Bad Boy Entertainment spoken word artist Malik Youssef, and Avant, to name a few. While maintaining a strong music relationship with them, he joined BMI June of 1997 and began to build his production catalog. Make sure you connect with DJ Hershey. Make some noise for him. And then we have our moderator, y'all. Our moderator, I'll say this, I'll say it after, but our moderator, not only does he have amazing, he's a beautiful black man, and it makes him know some beautiful black men, all right? But I want to say a little bit more about Jay White before I start the panel, but I'm going to read this. Jay White provides one-on-one therapy sessions and action items to move individuals beyond their current conditions. He also provides employment opportunities for his clients because there is a lot of stress-induced from drama centered around finances. And I'll say this man is a true entrepreneur He owns how many wines? He owns a wine company, so if you want to buy some wine, he's an amazing tap dancer, spoken word artist, and also he leads a group called the Black Man's Lab every Monday at the YMCA in the Atlanta area. Every Monday, the Black Man's Lab meets, and they have amazing conversations about how Black men can grow, how we can heal, and how we can improve our communities and our families. With no further ado, I want you all to give it up for this amazing panel discussion. Black men need healing.
Good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing? Y'all good? Okay, good. Well, we're going to jump right in the spirit of time. First of all, please salute Chris James for his vision. We appreciate you, Chris James, and your vision to bring us all together and to talk about healing, not just from Black men, but this entire day about healing our communities. So let me jump right in. My first question, and I know these brothers in passing, and some of them I know a little bit more personal from doing work. So I'm going to start with Montoya here. He calls himself Black Socrates, and he has a moniker. And the moniker is, all I ask is that you think, right? All I ask is that you think. So in the spirit of healing our communities and the need for healing, can you please talk to the audience for a minute? My question to you is going to be centered around, what does healing look like, and why is it so important for us to communicate? And what is the difference between being heard, understood, and talking over?
Thank you for that, Jay. Appreciate you. So, if I'm understanding the question, the difference between, let me make sure I heard it right, the difference between being heard, understood, and talking over. So, currently, with the way technology is and the way that we're learning to communicate, things are coming quicker. There's research showing how we, for example, how our attention spans are lower and things like that. And so when that stuff starts happening, it also affects how we communicate. And so while there's always understood dialogue sometimes when you're in a conversation and not being heard, someone's talking over you, so that's something that's been around forever, but we're starting to see it become the normal, contextualized way that we speak daily. And so now that becomes the kind of the normal thing, we're starting to walk around unheard anyway, because when we have a dialogue with even people that we care about, there's a dialogue with someone just kind of sharing with you what they think, not really hearing you. And so when I do these dialogues that Chris just mentioned every third Friday, we really try to concentrate on having conversations where people are not yelling beliefs at each other. Like all you're doing is just yelling beliefs at each other, hoping to be heard. Actually, no one has been heard, right? And so because that's kind of been normalized, then we're not being heard. That's just the first thing. But ultimately, the only time that you're able to move and change your perspective is if you feel understood. So that's why when you have a close friend that you talk to quite often, if you feel like they understand you, sometimes they can offer advice at that point. Because it wasn't so much that the advice was what you needed, you weren't able to listen until you felt that you were understood. And so I'm just kind of dialoguing, hopefully answering your question, just saying the difference between being heard and understood. So even you won't hear if you don't feel understood. And sometimes even people that we care about, we're not offering, let me just listen, make them feel understood. And you may have given them advice 2 or 3 times before, but you missed that part. And you're like, they're not taking this advice. Because now the 3rd time they come to you, or the 4th time, you're like, you're just repeating the same mistakes, and you're definitely not taking time to understand them because you feel like they're just repeating the same mistake, not realizing you never understood them first for you to be able to deliver a message to them.
Okay. I'm going to shift over here to you, Doc. So Doc talks a lot about, he uses emotions a lot. And from a healing space, he talks about emotional awareness, emotional literacy, emotional healing, right? Emotional fitness, right? Can you please tell us what you mean? Why? So before I do this, I want to give you all the definition of emotional, okay? Not to be elementary, but I also don't want to step over things because sometimes the nuggets that we get from it helps us to further understand, right? The process of making or becoming sound or healthy, here's the operative word, catch this, again. The process of making or becoming sound or healthy again, the gift of healing, which means it's a process. So talk about healing and why you talk about having emotional healing, emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, emotional fitness.
So, thank you for that, brother. So, from my experience, and I've been working with 99% of black men for the last 30 years, right? Started off as an elementary classroom teacher in Chicago to a principal, and now as a psychologist. So my entire professional career has been based mostly on working with black males from the age of 7 to 77. What I found mostly is that the mental struggle is as a result of the emotional unwellness. And so to be healed, as Brother Jay said, is to be sound, is to be whole, is to be free of ailments, right? All of us, with absolutely no exceptions, are on an ongoing healing journey, right? Your body is healing. Your body is fighting on your behalf in this very moment, right? The challenge with men is that we have to receive a unique approach to mental health, and it starts from the nervous system, right? In the body, from an emotional standpoint. It is expressed and oftentimes misexpressed through the mentality. When the body is unwell, it places greater demands on the mental, right? And so what I find now, is this whole co-opted, colonized approach of what it means to be mentally well for black folks. My personal approach to black mental health is using a combination of black psychology and African spirituality. And if you know your history, you know that the colonizers stole that from us anyway, repackaged it and gave it back to us, right? And so when it comes to mental health, it's important, specifically for black men from a healing standpoint, for them to know initially what emotions are, right? We are emotionally illiterate, right? We don't have it, right? It's not that we can't get it. No one gave it to us. I hear all types of myths. Men don't talk. Black men, let me share this with you. Men talk. They just don't talk to you.
Talk about it.
Men talk. They just don't talk to you for a number of reasons, right? Men talk. Your boys talk. Your brothers talk. Your significant other talk. It just may not be you. So to go back to your question, I first take an approach of what's ailing you, right? What's ailing you? And most of the time, it's something that they have held in the body in the form of emotions that start to expose them in two areas: the intimate relationship and how they serve, whether it's purposeful or occupational. So my goal is to increase the emotional literacy, starting with emotional awareness, and then turn up the emotional intelligence. And then, here it is, this is the beautiful part, allow brothers the tools to support themselves to stay emotionally fit, right? That's the game changer. It's not the emotions, right? People say, manage your emotions. You don't need to manage your emotions. You need to manage your reactions to your emotions. That's different.
Okay. I'm going to swing it before I come to DJ Hershey. I'm going to swing it all the way over to my good friend. Y'all know him as, I know him as Pablo Picasso, with Mario Reyes, which you threw the oop to him, Doc. His shirt reads, masculinity is not a filthy word. Can you stand up so they can see your shirt? And as he does that, I want y'all to understand that Chris James left out something so important regarding Poppy, and that's he is a husband. He's also a father. He's also a poet. He's also an activist within our community. But above that, he is a husband. And he talks about, like we just had a conversation about a situation where his leadership, he had to step up and be a leader, right? And sometimes when you think about healing within our communities, leadership and the ability to not be in leadership that we are fundamentally called to do. When you are fundamentally called to do something and it is eclipsed or it's suppressed, then that's going to manifest something. In many cases, it is unhealthy. Whatever is going to manifest is going to be unhealthy because it's suppressing who we fundamentally are. So my question to you is, as a man who works in the arts, as a man who works in the community, as a father, as a husband, how significant are the arts to our healing? How significant, as Doc just talked about a few moments ago, is the need for us to be able to have conversations, not just within our homes and within our communities. As he said, we just ain't talking to the people y'all think we should be talking to, right? Can you talk to us for a moment about that? What is your outlet as a leader in your home, in your community, and in the arts?
Well, thank you for having me, everybody. It's my first time out here at Black Wall Street. This is real dope. So I'm just excited to be here right now. I would say for me, for years, I mistakenly looked at poetry as my only form of therapy. Poetry is the gas, however, real therapy was the vehicle that it needed to go in. And they work in tandem, so that way I was able to push whatever healing journey I was on further. Now, to the aspect of who we're talking to, I think firstly we have to realize that identity narratives are so important, and that's why I created my programming around it. Identity narratives being the story you tell yourself about yourself. And it should be the greatest story you ever tell. Because throughout, when you go into war with the world per se, that's going to be the voice guiding you the whole way. And that is going to be your true north. So if you walk into the world with doubt, without any level of self-esteem, it's going to make you crumble under the pressures that you face, right? Secondly, finding safe spaces like Black Man Lab, like Undugu, are very important. And I believe that once you're heard with ears that speak your language, it allows you to be heard without parameters. That removes judgment. You can say what you need to say exactly how you feel it, and then hear yourself. Allow your space holders to hold you accountable to those words. So now when you go back to, let's say, your child, your wife, or whoever else you want to communicate with, your point is now refined because you had that clan to hold you accountable as a guarantor. You feel me? Mm-hmm. And so to that, yeah, I'll just leave it right there.
Okay, that's good stuff, man. So we're going to swing over to the great DJ Hershey, y'all, out of the Shy. So much to say about Chicago, man, but for you and in a good way, in a very good way. But you from the Shy too? Aaron, just so you, well, they set tripping on me already, y'all. Something going on. Something going on. About to whistle in the back.
That wasn't the type of clan I was talking about.
He said good stuff, guys. He said
Go down. If it go down, we got it.
If it go down, they together. So DJ Hershey. So now, and y'all, I'm giving y'all a real modest prelude into what's about to happen. A real modest prelude, because we really get ready to do a deep dive. DJ Hershey, I want to talk about, so I'm 50, and I think everybody up here is right around that age, right? And as a 50-year-old, I remember growing up to Luke on one side, Public Enemy on the other side. 2 Live Crew on one side, KRS-One on the other. How influential has music been in our hurt and causing our hurts? And how has music been influential in aiding us in healing?
Jay, that's a great question. So thanks for having me. I'm honored being on the panel with such brothers like you. That's a great question, and I'm gonna give you a really brief statement. My moniker for my company, Marshall F. Music Productions, is music is a powerful element, right? And it hurts, and it helps. Just like you said, Luke versus KRS, LL Cool J versus the Google Planets. You see what I'm saying? So, me as a musician and artist first, and then I became a father, and I was a husband. Music has a lot to do with our upbringing and demise. And the weird part of it, it's like a roller coaster, right? Now, as an adult, as a youth, it was entertainment. As a producer, I just hear the music. Do you remember being in the car with your parents and it's like, turn that mess down, right? It was entertainment to us. The beat had us moving and everything. Not so much paying attention to the lyrics. As we got older, we started listening to the content, what's being said, what's being told. And we all know what we see and what we hear. We're programming ourselves. You might not know it or not. We are programming ourselves. That's why if everybody gets, once they get in their car and they turn on the radio, you hear the same songs every hour. Every hour. That's Corbin back there programming. So music in itself, it has a help and a hindrance to answer your question. Now, what I want to throw as a caveat to that, us as adults, parents, even single, if we don't have kids, it's up to us to guide that. Right? Just because it's being played don't mean we got to listen to it. Right? Just because it's being shown doesn't mean we have to watch it. Especially if we want to just guide our homes. Like, I met you gentlemen today, found out a lot of similarities and then a lot of differences. But it doesn't make us greater or less than each other. We have different respects and different upbringing. So it's just about how you want to, how you want to bring up your tribe. And we just hope as individuals, what I send out to the earth, my kids, a dog, whoever is underneath my roof, once they leave that door, making sure they have that proper respect and that proper guidance where it reflects to the next person next to them, their neighbors, their co-workers, anybody that they're experiencing on the street. So music in itself, it has a very huge influence. And it's just us as individuals, we have to have control of it. We should have control of it.
That sounds like a chicken before the egg kind of scenario, because art imitates your life, and then life ends up imitating the art, and it's a cycle. So yes, it is like a healthy conduit for us as artists, and similar to what I was talking about with gas and vehicle. When I'm on stage and I share about a poem about my sister passing away, I become a lightning rod for everybody else that has grief and loss in their life. So now I got 20 people talking to me about their grief, and it brings me back to a place that I might not necessarily want to be, but now I have to have the tools that somebody like Dr. Kurt provides to understand how to deal with it. And now that in itself will generate another poem. So that's the cycle of art imitates life and life imitating art.
Can I add this? I'm so glad you asked this question. And I want to reiterate something because it has to hit home. He says, hey, we as the parents, we're responsible. I don't have children, but I just want to put this in perspective. So we really have to understand the influence of music that we all agree and understand that it has this big influence, right? But we overplay the influence and don't understand, in my opinion, what he means when we say we have to have control. So I just want to highlight this quick understanding. So, for example, the violence that we see, and obviously that's the reason we're talking about this, right? There are aspects of violence that we see, music talks about it, and things of that nature. And so what happens is, as the parents, as the older coach, I mentor kids and things of that nature, we overplay and lay too much at the feet of the music, and we're actually letting ourselves off the hook. And it's because we don't understand the actual influence of the music. So here's the mistake of how we misunderstand the influence. So you may understand that there's a genre within hip hop called drill music, which is constantly talking about death and that type of thing. It's become popular over the last few years. And so the mistake we make with the influence is I'm the same age as hip hop, and remember when NWA hit the scenes, and all youth are gonna chase whatever the rebel music of the time is. When it was the 70s, disco was the new thing, so youth chased that. When it was the 60s, it was rock and roll. So whatever the rebel music of the time is, each generation is gonna chase that rebel music. And it's just contrasting with whatever the adults would think is cool. Like, it's really that simple. Like, whenever a 26-year-old is an adult to a kid, they're gonna chase something that's different than what they think is cool. Like, I'm simplifying it because that's reality and what we were doing when I was first listening to NWA and Ice Cube and that type of thing. But the reality is, we know that there are people in the boardrooms that listen to Jay-Z right before they make a presentation to the group. They listen to Ice Cube right before they make a presentation to the group because of the feeling and the influence of the music. When I say overplay it, so drill music has been popular the last 2 years. Right before, I'm gonna pull a couple stats and make it all make sense. So right before the pandemic, the murder rate for our community was the lowest it had ever been. Drill music was running hip hop. And so we have this concept that the music is creating the action. The reality is drill music came from people who lived lives that were already in the streets. They just learned how to make music. And so if you're understanding what I'm saying, when we're saying, well, hey, why are these artists rapping about this? Or now we see some of the younger artists say things that get them in jail, which of course as adults we're like, that's very stupid. But we're thinking it's the music, not realizing this is this kid's background. So the issue is, what was his background to still want to make that music? And so we let ourselves off the hook when we say, hey, look at the music, because we think the music influences you to go with those actions. It's your background already, what you did or did not have, that has some of those kids doing those actions. The majority of people making that music ain't doing any of those things. I'm not trying to let the music off the hook. I'm just highlighting when we just talk about the music, we're letting ourselves off of our parental responsibilities to make sure that our children are not coming up in environments, which a lot of us are already doing. We just keep shooting to the music, not realizing that crime rate follows, do we provide them jobs, not the music they listen to.
And I'll have to co-sign with that. So there's a bunch of things, and I'm going to make this really short. So with the influence of music, it, as you mentioned, it's generational, right? So now the thing is when you're talking about backgrounds, everybody has a different background. And unfortunately, and you guys know this, as black men, they'll look at us and feel that we all have the same hardship, was born in the inner city, was surrounded by either drug dealers or prostitutes. They just think of the most, just worst time that anybody can grow up on. And it's not necessarily true. I turned 50 in February. I grew up Duran Duran, U2, you know, the heart of MTV Friday night videos, right? So when I talk about the music and I get eclectic, I can go back and go classical, Beethoven, you know, stuff like that, because I was a concert band drummer first. So my upbringing is totally different. What I chose to do as our family is to change that dynamic. We grew up in the inner city of Chicago, moved out, moved on up, right? Go to the south suburbs of Chicago, and we did very well. But now the thing is we don't have to be subject to what we see. God gave us the ability to know right and wrong. What we choose to accept is what we choose to be.
Ooh, y'all ready to go deeper?
Let's go.
What role do women play in our healing?
1000%. So, and it starts with our mom, right? Not that we have mom issues, but how we respond to our women, or what our women tell us, who we are, what we're supposed to do, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to learn. I mean, come on, we're grown men. You see a nice looking woman that you're attracted to, and you try to get her attention. If she starts saying some things and you, I may not like that, but to get her attention, I might want to just kind of look into it. It has and she's very strong-minded. Women have major influence. You guys are the voice of our culture as growing up. So it's as nurturers with our women. So we have to be very, very conscious of the messages and the sights of what's being seen to our children from there. And then our fathers, we're the executioners. We have to enforce that. We have to enforce that. And then it just goes around full circles. Now with our women also, they're also supposed to be with us as men, and we're supposed to be with them as our mate, as partners. So we can guide our culture and we have one accord of where we're going and which direction we're taking this ship.
I want to jump in on it. What role do women play in our healing? Do you think women play a role in our healing?
Well, I'll take this one as an art. You talked about art earlier. Everything comes from a poem or goes into a poem. Guarantee you in my life. So, like, if you piss me off, it'll end up on stage. You know what I mean? So, I got a poem called "This Spiritual Ish Really Works." It's a Jay-Z line, and through my wife, I got introduced to therapy. I got introduced to the chakras. I got introduced to understanding sensitivity. And prior to, like, just in a real effort in which what I could say made me a better man is when my children told her that they liked this version of me better than when I was a single father. Because I'm able to hear them better. I'm able to identify my root emotion, and I'm not so comfortable in the anger of the fact that they may have gotten a C in school or something like that. You know what I mean? It used to go left a lot. And through her, I got to realize that discipline is a muscle that you have to exercise. And when you're a single man and you don't have anybody to hold you accountable, discipline isn't at your forefront of your head or your priorities.
Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I take it. Repeat the question. Let me make sure I'm clear on this one, right?
Do women have a responsibility to aid us in our healing, right? On our healing journey, are women, should they be included? Are they responsible for our healing? Do they add to it? Do they take away from it?
So that's a lot.
What is a woman's role? Yeah.
So,
What is a woman's role
Right.
in our healing?
Yeah, way to remix that, Jay.
right. So it just depends. So here's my current position professionally. Obviously, there's a lot of rhetoric and things going on regarding relationships online, right? I refrain from speaking generality regarding different genders and sexes and what they should and should not do. There's not a week go by that I don't work with couples in counseling, and there's unique challenges to all of them. No one is responsible in total to anyone's healing. That is a self thing, right? We are all healed and damaged through relationships. We are all healed and damaged through relationships, right? Mostly stemming from childhood. But there's some goodness in that. The woman's role is her role depending on how you in relationship to her. I'll use my personal background as an example. My mother put me in therapy back in 86, 87. Let me say that again. I was 14, 15, 16, right? She was ahead of her time in comparison to now. She knew she was starting to lose me, right? We didn't have a daily authoritative figure in the house. My dad was in my life. He didn't live in my home. When you're growing up on the streets of Chicago, if your dad ain't in your home, it's a hit or miss, right? I oversimplified and complicated my upbringing. I convinced myself, as you said, your own narrative, that I grew up in tough times. No, I just grew up in the city of Chicago, right? My folks were involved. They were working class. They did the best they knew how. My mother was mature when she had me. My mother was mature when she had me. So thank God that I had a solid mother who, when I started to go my way, she put my ass in counseling, right? She put me in therapy. The beautiful thing about therapy, and I will tell families this, the one who's exemplifying the most symptoms that starts to attract outside agencies is the one who goes to therapy first. But in the black community, going to therapy is like going to jail. Whoever there, we all in jail. You got to take the calls, you got to put money on the book, right? Right? That's how therapy
Not even they
is.
celebrate you when you come home from jail. They don't celebrate you when you come back from therapy.
They don't. But that's a whole different conversation, right? And part of the lack of celebration is the unawareness. It's the unfamiliarity, right? If they knew if therapy was a commonplace, they would celebrate it, which is why we over celebrating it now as something trendy. Let me go back to my point. So the person who goes to therapy, who's exemplifying the most simple, the symptoms that attract agencies, they start there. But because we're all healed and damaged through relationship, everybody must come full circle in the therapeutic process. So it started off with me, then my mother, then my brother, then my sister, and then my father, who did not live in a household. So healing came out of that. I was the brave one who went against the norm. They tried to label me. My mother's like, let me see if he can listen to somebody else. Come to find out, bunch of moving parts, right? I got 15 and 16. She didn't get that I started to remind her of, guess who? My father, right? I smell like him. I look like him, right? Right? That was triggering to her. It wasn't also triggering, it was re-traumatizing. So when we all came into therapy, we got all of it out, including my father. That's the healing process. I work with individuals all day long. Parents, black mamas bring me their black sons and say, fix them. I say, I don't fix black boys. I help heal them. But they're going to be good with me in session until I got to send them back to you. So the only way I'm going to take your child, your baby, is if I take you. Because he is healed and damaged mostly by you, the one he spends the most time with.
Can I add on to that real quick? When you said something that I feel like is a core tenet in manhood, and that is accountability. Nobody else is accountable or responsible for our healing, and there's a big difference between responsibility and accountability, right? Now, one of the things that I told my wife is, yeah, I did it for you. I was inspired by you, but I did it for myself. And one of the things that she appreciates is that I can have like frank conversations and say, God forbid this don't work, I'm still healed and I will continue that journey. Now, that right there and that level of accountability and discipline makes her love me more. So it compounds the interest and the desire to help me heal as I'm leading the journey.
So my question to that, go ahead, my time.
I'll just say something real quick, and I think it relates, going back to the influence of the music, if you will. So I love studying history and things of that nature, and so historically, we really know through evolution psychology that by nature, humans are communal, if you will. But if you think about the messaging specifically in America, rugged individualism is an aspect that never leaves the context of what we're taught. And so going back to the music, if you will, I got it out the mud, I got it myself, I don't need anyone myself. So just keep in mind that that is an influence of music, of how you see yourself. That is more of the real influence versus what I was saying earlier about that action. But if you keep in mind the messaging that he's been pointing out, what you're constantly telling yourself, is it adding to, when you talk about the role of a woman, humans, if we're communal, then the role is we're complementary. We go together. That's nothing that we're hearing in the messaging via social media, like Dr. Kurt talked about. We see these constant conversations, gender this, gender that. All of them is one group saying y'all should do this, and one group saying you should do that. Forgetting the goal that we are naturally complementary. So when you say what that role is, your natural complement plays the role I need, but that only works if we both have that vision and never forget. So get off of social media with those battles, because they've forgotten we go together. We go together by nature. We're complementary. That's the equality, not the equality that they're fighting over. If we're complementary, it's not because we're the same. It's what do you have that I don't have? Now it goes together. If you remember that vision, that's the role you play in my healing, because I need you along the way. She influences him. Without her, he doesn't do it. He understands it's his own healing. Without her, he's stuck, still being a mean dad to his kids. It goes together. That's her role.
Ashe. And I wanted to, number one, address what you said, responsibility and accountability, right? And going back to what you're saying, piggybacking off of that, which is why I kind of frame the question that way. I don't think it's solely on any one individual to do any one thing. More so than it is, I should have really talked about this matriarch versus patriarch society that we're in, and how patriarchy has suppressed what a woman brings to the table versus opens it up and invites her. Because like you said, I don't have to go and solicit you to help heal me. But we go together by God's principle, right? God put this thing, he put something in women, or she put something in women, or they put something in women, right?
A divine design, bro.
It's systemic.
And they put something in men that goes together, right? And if we understand that it ain't, and I should have really put myself on Front Street. Like, I grew up in a household where my father wasn't present as well, but I noticed around my community that the men, through government assistance, was pushed out of the home. Claudine, you can't have no man around you. Get him out of here. We'll take care of you, right? So they're saying, we'll take care of you, but the man who looks like him and his children, you can't be here. Yeah. That birthed something in our communities. And men, when you don't have that man present that will put hands on you every day, or can look at you and you start crying, then you turn to sources like the media to raise you. Nowadays, our young people are being raised on this phone, right? So when we don't have community, what he's talking about, when we don't have community, I can take the phone away from my child, but they go into 30,000 other kids whose parents don't take the phone away from theirs, right? So ain't no censorship no more. There's no accountability anymore, right? So now, what is our responsibility to help each other heal? That's the question. And we're going to take it to the audience because we got to open it up for the audience's question. But I just want to give that prelude. When you talk about black men need healing, I think it's something we all do together, but it's understanding why we need healing in the first place. What are all these things that have been thrown at us to make us need this in the first place?
Let me jump in here real quick. So just like with my brothers over here, you said your fathers wasn't a parent. Mine was, but we still had trauma. Like you don't know how the system itself is going against you. I just found out that my father, he passed away 2 years ago. He's a sergeant in the Marines. I just found out 2 weeks ago he was part of the Camp Lejeune situation, right? So as me growing up, I'm trying to figure out, why is my father always mad? Why? It's this, that way. Like, I could not get in my bed unless that quarter bounced off, right? You didn't know why he was raising you or why he wasn't there. He was also battling with alcoholism. I went to counseling starting at age 8. I had to learn how to read his emotions at age 8. So you don't know why you're going through these things, but even when your fathers are present or they're not present, you're still having challenges, and then you're banking on your tribe, your surroundings, to start healing. And I've always used the analogy with my father used to be an alcoholic. He went and got counseling. He went to AA. He got fixed. What our job was to do, what we stopped doing, is putting alcohol in the house. It's very simplistic. If we knew he had an issue drinking, what's causing it? If it's in his area, he's going to want to drink it. So guess what? We're not going to drink in the house anymore. So it became a family issue. It became everybody that loves him to help him heal from that. So it's not just the individual, it's all of us.
All right, y'all. Well, we're going to open it up to y'all. First of all, give our panel A round of applause. So we're gonna open this up for questions. So you ask the question, just stand up, state your name, give us your question, please.
Yep, and and this segment will be about. We got about 12 more minutes for this segment. So if you got a question, raise your hand, and one of us will bring you a mic.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for this panel today. We definitely appreciate it. Much needed. And I want to say, see, I came up with the Soul Trade era, so I didn't. This stuff we hear now, I did not hear it. I didn't have to compete with that. But just real quick, the impact of a father. You know, I lost my dad at 43, but until that age, I saw a powerful black man. A lot of these kids don't see that, you know. And, I mean, when he wasn't much on words, it was more his actions. So when I'm in settings with other brothers about how we should step up, the bar is set too high. I'm serious. They think the bar is, but I saw it. I saw a man who provided, worked, cooked, baked. I mean, he did it all. Paid bills. I saw that, and that's why I turned out the way I was. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't have struggles. Losing your dad at 17 can be, you know, that's a real challenge. Coming up in Detroit. So, but I felt being the oldest to get out on my own quickly because I wanted to help my mother. But what I do want to say, Doc, you hit a good point about the spirituality. Without that combination, I don't see it happening. But my question to the panel, because I got a couple people wrestling with this, on the schizophrenic. I was hoping my friend could be here for it. He's not. My brother's a schizophrenic. He's been battling with it for 20 years. And is there, and I know they say it's some type of traumatic experience that they had. Is there a cure for it? I mean, can it be helped? Can a therapist really turn that around?
So here's my personal response, and then I'll give a professional. They'll probably be the same. There's a cure for everything. The challenge is the misdiagnosis. There's a cure for everything. The challenge is the misdiagnosis. See, as black people, right, we suffer from this white coat syndrome, right? We'll play into a label, good, bad, or indifferent. Some of us have been misdiagnosed. It's easy to do. The research, let me digress. You can heal from anything. Most people who were clinically diagnosed 15, 20, 12 years ago would not be diagnosed the same today. They just wouldn't, all right? Depending on the assessment and the clinician. What I definitely know is there's a lot of things that come to being unwell and unhealed. Again, going back to the initial definition of healing, being ailment-free, being sound and whole. We all struggle. Most of the time, westernized medicine will only treat symptoms. The current state of mental health is a component of the medical industrial complex. I'm gonna say that again because some of y'all are looking like you don't know what that means. The current state of mental health is a component of the industrial medical complex, which means they need to focus on what? The money. 2 ways to get money in the medical industrial complex: go under the knife or swallow the meds, right? And so from an African, black psychological, spiritual aspect, we know we could heal anything. The pharmaceuticals they done stole the plant-based remedies and created it in the lab and sold it back to us. I may be saying too much, but I don't care, right? So the question is, can we heal? Yes. I offer anybody who has been diagnosed years ago to seek a second, third, 20th opinion. You can heal yourself, right? There's a lot you have to unlearn, mostly the white coat syndrome that most of us are inundated with, right? So I purposely dress like this because when you come to my practice in Midtown Atlanta, this is what you're gonna get. These Jordan 1s, right? Right? For one reason, Thank you, brother. Yours too. Yours too. Did y'all get that? We get them afterwards. You missed the memo. Seriously though, so my job is to bridge the gap, to serve as the conduit without patriarchy and colonized approach to healing, right? Sexism and racism. Most of our challenges, as the doctor said on the previous panel, is racially based and induced. Let's be clear, right? DJ Hersey talked about his dad. Know that too familiar, right? It's called the Vietnam War. It's called alcoholism, right? They ain't push him out, they was out. It's called clinical depression from their standpoint. I didn't realize before my dad died, 6 months before, his whole existence in my life made sense, right? 6 months before he died, his whole existence made sense, but I was a man then. When he passed away and I went back to pack up his house in Chicago, I had this story. I made him my leading character in 1979. I was 8 years old, right? I went to live with him briefly. When I packed up his house, and in my story I had that he wasn't there because I went to a top school where their dads were there. So then I pegged my dad, right? Like I put him in this label, and he never, no matter what he did for the next 40 years, he could not step out of the road that I gave him until I buried him and went to his house. I went through all his albums when he was in the war, and I realized that my father was always there. He just didn't live with me. My father had pictures of every significant thing I ever did in my life. My father had pictures in through the fence when I was playing Little League. I made him wrong, and I paid for it. And on some level, I'm still paying for it, because that's the healing journey. So I'll close with this. Whether they dead or alive, you still got to put that work in.
Okay. Let's go to another question. And that's why Dr. Kurt should be your therapist. All right? We got two questions. Well, we'll start with a black man because this is about us. No, I'm joking. It's about us all. And then we'll come back here. I know that was too aggressive. I got some healing to do.
I'm a gentleman, my brother. I'm the sisters go first. I believe in chivalry. All right, just know I try, sister. Just know I try. Hey, peace and blessings, guys. First, salute to all you brothers. My name is I.M. I met you Monday at the Black Man's Lab. I was trying to figure out all day how I know you. Recently, I wrote this book called How to Love an Absent Father, and I want to pose a question to y'all that I've been asking numerous black men, because that seems to be one of the biggest crises in our community, is what advice would you have for men who may have been absent from their child's life for a particular period of time, who would like to reintegrate into their life, but do not know what steps to go into in getting back in their child's life?
So, I'll jump in. Research. I just talked to Dr. Kurt, about 30 minutes ago, and as I mentioned before, we got more similarities than differences. Both from Chicago, we dealt with a lot of same family type trauma, and just like he found out about his dad 30, 40 years later. Even though my dad was in the house, I really didn't know that guy until after he passed away. So what I'm asking you, one thing that I started doing, what I did with my family, I started what I call a cousin's call, right? Trauma just doesn't start in your direct house. Oh, well, it doesn't extend just to your direct house. Your cousins, your aunties, your uncles, your fathers, if they got sisters or brothers and everything, you're an adult now. Ask questions. Ask questions. You'll get to learn more about who your father is from a distance. Because believe it or not, for some reason, there was one key reason why he is no longer there. Sometimes we're not privy enough to get that information to realize what that was. And when you find out that answer, it's going to help you pull everything else together so it can help you with your understanding of who your father is.
I got something actionable for you, young man. My name is Mario, and I also wrote a book called The Son with No Father is a Book with No Author. Through that book, I created a workshop called Kingdom Son, in which we bring fathers and sons together to help humanize the parenting experience so you're more than just a label. You are now an actual person that has lessons and experiences that child that you could bestow upon your child. We have 8 actual subjects that we touch, everything ranging from love and family to sexuality and race. So I encourage you to, like, I'll exchange contact information, and anybody you know, I would like y'all to sign up for the next iteration of that, and we can help usher that in together as a village.
I just want to give you a simple thing. You said that your father is wanting to get back involved. Here's one thing that as men that we chase subconsciously, and most of us are unaware of it because a lot of us have never heard it. But whether you have a father or don't have a father, especially the older generation, because they didn't talk as we always talk about, is your father actually saying, I'm proud of you. Like, that's words a lot of us will never hear in our lifetime. My father's already passed. And the reason I'm telling you that is when you say a father wants to step in, that father can step in saying something the child didn't even know they needed, and it will open up a lot more than just, how do I open up to this child who I haven't been around? Start with words that a young boy specifically, but all our children are chasing. I'm proud of you. Start with that. Definitely take his word shot. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, counseling, right? Individual therapy and family counseling, to answer your question, right? There's a number of different approaches through counseling. But to your question, how does that start? It starts in a safe, healing, professional, experienced environment, right? And then it takes time. And I do it all the time, every day, right? There is fathers who are choosing to be reconnected who live in the same house. See, what you must understand is there are also absent fathers who live in the house, right? There's also absent fathers who live in the house. From my experience and from the research, when the father who does not live in the house is not present, more times than not, it has become very challenging for him to do so. It has become very challenging for him to be as active as societal pressures may deem it. It's one question that I ask a couple, a mother and a father, regarding the child is, take me back to conception, and let's start there.
All right, so I'll say this, so we're gonna add a hard 10 minutes to this so we can just take those last 2 questions, and then, but go ahead.
We can go.
All right. Boom.
Thank you. I am a mother of a black son, the only girl in a family of brothers, and aunt to just nephews, no nieces. And although I have benefited from therapy, I look at my nephews, my son, my brothers, their struggles, this kind of like a circle of broken relationships with their children or their spouses, ex-spouses. And when I suggest, hey, why don't y'all think about therapy? I'm told, that won't work for me. They can't fix me. You go. Now, mind you, when I did therapy, I hid it for a whole year because I knew my family would stigmatize me. And then when it came out, it was like, you should just pray on it. You're not praying hard enough. But I want them to just at least explore it. But I don't know the words in order to encourage them. So, as black men, as a black woman, how can I encourage them without making them feel like they're broken or anything?
So let me say this. First of all, you fix things that are broken. You don't need to be fixed. You're perfect the way you are. That's it. You're perfect the way you are. But also understanding that we can all make enhancements to our life, I think is the approach, right? Man, I love you just the way you are. Now, can we all be better as people? Can we work on ourselves and challenge ourselves to be better? We absolutely can, as a mature or more mature being. But when I say that, I mean as an elder, how we open up the door to healing puts on the table our wisdom. And the wisdom says, ain't nothing wrong with you, but let me share my journey with you and what I needed to heal in my life, because if I feel like you're going to throw stones at me, I ain't going to open up and tell you nothing either. So it's coming vulnerable and saying, look, man, when I grew up, this is what I did. I ain't so proud of some of the things that I did, some of the things that I said, some of the ways that I was being. And it took somebody else or whatever that remedy was to help you transition into a better space. I think being vulnerable and offering that as a way. Listen, I just offer this to you. Ain't no judgment. I don't have a heaven or hell to put you in, right? But it's also using your wisdom to be inviting versus judgmental. Because young people period, are being told what to do from the time they wake up to the time they enter and leave school and they come back home. We always being told what to do versus inviting them to have an opinion. I think we would all share the sentiment that our parents never invited us into conversation. It was like, shut up when grown people talking, go in the back, or excuse yourself. When grown folk talking, do what? Close your mouth, right? But opening up a space for them to be heard, opening up that space to really be heard. So I want to.
Yeah, I feel like I hear that inviting in the way that she spoke to her brothers. We had a Zoom that we community checkup for like 2 years. Dr. Kurt was one of our therapists that would come on the community checkup. So I'm just relaying something that one of our other therapists said. These are not my words. But Dr. Trina Pittman says that in the event that you want to get a family member into therapy, go with them to start it. Versus like what he's saying is good, but that won't make them take the step. Go with them. And the example she gave was just at the end of the day, when you teach babies to go swimming or whatever, then they usually have the parent with them, even though they don't actually know how to swim or whatever. But that's the start of the process. Then eventually they swim on their own. And so if it's that important to you, that's a practical step. Invite them to go with you.
To add on to what Jay said, ma'am, I said earlier, I challenge everybody in here to get past the point of how are we going to be vulnerable, but instead be space holders for people to receive vulnerability. And there's a difference between vulnerability, transparency, and honesty. A lot of times we are honest without the request, and it comes across as judgment instead of a lesson. So create an environment for them to actually be transparent, absent of judgment, and then together y'all can walk through that door.
And just to add for that, sister, first of all, I want to thank you for sharing that question and everything. And don't feel that you're alone with that. You're battling something that you have no idea what you're battling. That's first of all. And I'm going to sum it up. The reason why they don't want to go is because they feel they're alone in that journey. They're alone. They feel they're alone. How many times have one of the gentlemen may have said something, and every man expressed themselves differently. Communication is not just words. I've learned my biggest lesson about communication from a friend's pet. Think about it. Cat, dog, bird, they can't speak, but they'll walk up to you, especially if you have a dog or a cat. They'll come up to you and look at you. They'll make any type of gestures. They're trying to infuse what they're thinking into you just by watching. So communication is not always just the words, and we've always heard black men don't communicate. Yeah, we do. These guys, we could go to a bar and have a conversation and maybe speak out of 20 minutes, 3 words, but we've had just a generational conversation. Because we know how to hit it directly instead of expounding it. Now, it doesn't make it any worse or better on how people communicate. We just, as individuals, have to learn to communicate as they communicate to us. We just have to learn how to read it, and don't make us feel bad about what we're trying to express. So what I was saying is with your young gentlemen, they feel like they're alone in their journey, and you have to build that scenario where they don't feel that they're alone. Like you said, go with them to the therapist. The first few times, let them be comfortable about it. After a while, it's just going to start rolling off.
Let me jump in. So I get that question all the time, right? Every week I get a question from a black woman about how do I get a black male in their family into a therapy. And there's a number of approaches, right? For one, just to be open in time. There's to go with them, and there's to bring me to you, right? I've worked with families 3 years every third Sunday for 3 years in a row. in their living room after Sunday dinner, right? You gotta get, there's other cultures who bring in professionals to them, whether it's finances, right? Trust, real estate, right? We too busy judging and trying to fix in our approach. We mean well, the approach is wrong, right? And so we hearing this T word, this therapy word online. So the black males in your family, they know they struggling, they don't want to be fixed. Your approach is, as Jay said, you broken, and I got somebody who needs to fix you. What I'm offering you to say is, hey, as a family, we've all decided to receive family counseling, to seek wise counsel, and we'd like to invite you over the third Sunday to be a part of it. That's different. That's inclusive, right? That's inclusive. That's language, right? We taking the oppressor's language,
And
wondering why.
that's in your comfort zone.
We taking the oppressor's language, wondering why our black males are not responding to it. They heard it before. They have been institutionalized before. They started being misdiagnosed when they were in third grade. Right? Let me say that again. They started being misdiagnosed when they was in third grade with that first suspension. When your black male got suspended in that educational institution that was based on the colonizers' approach to learning, stole from Germany, then you went with it. You went with it, right? Then they had to test them. Then they had to talk about putting them in special ed. And if you needed the bread, you would have, I'm saying too much, right? As a former principal, I tend to say too much about public education. But that's when it started, right? So then they get in contact with juvenile and then divorce court, right? We've been institutionalized. We don't want to talk to nobody. I've been to 5 therapists. I'm 52. I've been there, done that. I became a therapist in therapy. I went to 5 of them. Guess what? I didn't want to go. But when you lose everything, including both your parents, your wife, your house, your family, you spend a couple months in jail, right? And the judge say you better go talk to somebody. When you homeless, sleeping on your partner's couch, you're calling somebody therapy, because one thing about hitting rock bottom is ain't nowhere else to go.
Amen. Give it up for Dr. Kirk. All these brothers. All right, so check it out. We go. Oh, okay, she said she good on her question. Oh, there it is. They offer so much value. It was, yeah, amen, hallelujah. So really quickly, we're going to wrap up this panel because we got an exercise we're going to do real quick before we get to our live performance, which is going to be an amazing saxophone artist, Chris King. So you guys don't want to miss that in the next 15 minutes. That's going to start. But I want everybody to tell everybody how they can follow you quick and to the point. All right, cool. So we'll start that.
All right, I'm Core, C-O-R-E, DJ Hershey, all across the board. But IG is I am Core, C-O-R-E, DJ Hershey.
You can go to mentordialogue.com. I have cards if anybody wants to pick up a card. And if you're on IG, mentor_dialogue. Also promote anything that we have every third Friday, the Mentor Dialogue Live Experience. And we also have an introductory into mental health with Dr. Joe Hassel, psychologist, for people that want to get introduced. Self-talk for 175, 3 sessions. You can't beat it. It's just introducing people into it.
Tell them about your book.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just wrote a book called Re-Education of the Negro. It's a commentary. It's small, it's short commentaries that create dialogues on race, sex, and culture. So a lot of what I talked about here, there are pieces in the book that addresses those conversations. We just have deeper conversations. If we think better, we act better.
Word. My name is Jay White. I actually go by Jay the Dreamer, Jay the Dreamer. All of my social media handles, website, jaythedreamer.com. What I didn't go into, recently went to seminary because I've been to every continent, a lot of countries, and I'm like, everywhere I go, black people on the bottom. And I'm like, why? What is the common denominator, numerator, each one, however you look at it? Religion. Religion have killed us globally. So I needed to go and study and find out for myself, like, what is going on? So that's what I do. I go into the depths. I know Doc talked about African spirituality. Who were we before the Mayflower? Who were we before the Clotilda? who even for the Ma'afa, right? So we can talk about that, man. JAYTheDreamer.com. Would love to talk to y'all about it. Got a couple books out.
So a Google search, thank you, brothers. A Google search, Dr. Curtis D. Jasper, will get to you. Will get to me. Social media, I am Dr. Curtis D. Jasper on Facebook, Twitter, and the number on Google. When you put that in, it comes directly to me. So I'm not hard to find. But I appreciate y'all.
Instagram, I am Mario, like the video game, A Reyes, Reyes. I would prefer if you follow my nonprofit page, Manifest Destiny INC, or go to our website, manifestdestinynpo.com. We are actively engaged in the community. We bring art programs to all the underserved communities throughout the Atlanta area. I run the father-son workshops and the poetry workshops, and my wife does the mother-daughter workshops and the art workshops, and we hope to bring some services to you guys nearby. Thank you so much for your time, y'all.
Word up. Big shout out to, again, Chris James for the vision. And we'll see y'all out here somewhere.
Yeah. Hey, give it up for these amazing brothers real quick. Give it up for them. All right. And they ain't going nowhere. They gonna be here. So check it out. We're about to get into our next segment. I want to make sure. So we got 2 more segments before we get to our next panel discussion, which is going to be considering mental health in relationships. So we got some amazing panelists for that. All right, so if you need to stretch your legs, this is a great moment to do that because we're about to get into the self-care party. DJ, you can turn some music up a little bit. All right, we're about to do a self-care exercise. All right, so we're about to start that like almost immediately. So raise your hand if you would like to get a piece of paper and a pen to participate in the self-care activity. All right, so we got some folks in the front that want some piece of paper and a pen to participate in the self-care activity that's about to happen. All right, we're gonna play some music when we do that. All right, so we're about to start this self-care party. Keep your hand raised if you want that paper and pen. You don't want to miss out on the self-care activity that we're about to do. All right, the self-care party. All right, so we're gonna get into the self-care party right before we get to our